For skipping my sister's wedding after she excluded my daughter? My name is Joyce, I'm 45, and I live in Texas with my 2 kids, Caleb and Regina. I work as an office manager for a small dental practice, which means most of my day is spent fixing schedules, calming people down, and pretending a problem is smaller than it is. I guess that has always been my unofficial job in my family too. Caleb is 11, quiet in the way kids get when they've learned to read a room too early. He notices when adults lower their voices. He notices when someone smiles with their mouth but not their eyes. He notices when I'm about to say it's fine, even though nothing about it is fine. Regina is 9, bright, literal, funny, and autistic. She loves weather apps, soft cardigans, and writing rules on index cards so the world feels less like a hallway full of locked doors. She does not like scratchy tags, sudden cheering, or people touching the top of her head because they think she is cute. She loves knowing what is going to happen next. If she has a plan, she can handle a lot. If people are honest with her, she usually handles more than they expect. My younger sister, Marissa, was getting married that spring, and for weeks Regina treated that wedding like it was a final exam she desperately wanted to pass. Every night after dinner, she sat at our kitchen table with a stack of index cards, a purple marker, and her little noise-reducing headphones pushed around her neck. Caleb sat across from her, playing the role of whoever she wanted to practice with. "Okay," Regina said one Tuesday evening, holding up a card labeled Greeting. "You are Aunt Marissa." Caleb put on a high voice that was not very kind but was very accurate. "Oh my gosh, Regina, look at you. You're so pretty." Regina looked down at her card. "Thank you. I like your dress." "Good," Caleb said. "I do not explain the fabric unless she asks. That's actually a great rule for everybody." I was standing at the sink rinsing plates, pretending not to watch too closely. Regina had other cards too. Small talk. If music is too loud. When to say excuse me. What to do if someone asks why I have headphones. She had a little cardigan draped over the back of her chair because she knew banquet rooms were often cold. She had already picked out the soft blue dress she could tolerate for at least 3 hours if we cut the tag out. She wanted to go. That was the part no one in my family wanted to understand later. Regina wanted to be there so badly that she was building herself a bridge to get there. In my family, being reliable meant people stopped asking if you were tired. I was the oldest daughter, so I became the person who remembered birthdays, brought extra napkins, smoothed over insults, and explained bad behavior in softer words. When my mother, Diane, said something cruel and called it honesty, I translated it. When my father, Frank, made big promises and forgot half the details, I organized the paperwork. When Marissa forgot to call our grandmother on her birthday, I said she had been overwhelmed. When Marissa cried because someone held her accountable, I was the one told to be the bigger person. Marissa was 39 and still somehow treated like a delicate heirloom that might crack if anyone spoke too directly. She was beautiful in a polished way, always with glossy hair and clean nails and a phone full of photos where everything looked expensive even when it wasn't. She had been the baby, then the pretty one, then the one who deserved a special day, for every day that mattered. Her fiancé, Evan, was 42. I didn't know him well, but he seemed decent in the careful way people can seem decent when you only see them at family dinners. He was polite to my kids. He asked Caleb about school, and once listened to Regina explain the difference between a tornado watch and a tornado warning without making a joke. Evan's father, Graham, owned a large commercial supply company. My dad owned a smaller regional warehouse business, and from the moment Marissa and Evan got engaged, the wedding became more than a wedding. It became, in my parents' minds, a doorway. Dad started saying things like, "There may be some partnership opportunities down the line." Mom started saying things like, "We need to present ourselves well." By ourselves, she meant all of us, but especially anything connected to her that might look messy. About a month before the wedding, Mom came over with a binder full of seating charts and welcome bag lists. She sat at my kitchen table while Regina's index cards were stacked neatly near the fruit bowl. Mom picked one up and smiled in a way that made me brace myself. "Oh," she said. "She's still doing these?" "She's excited," I said. Mom's smile twitched. "Of course. Sweet girl." She put the card down like it was damp. A week later, the real phone call came. I was at work, wedged between a patient complaining about insurance and a hygienist asking if we could switch her Friday schedule, when my phone buzzed with Mom's name. I almost let it go to voicemail, but she called twice, which meant she wanted something. I stepped into the supply closet and answered. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, using the voice she saved for requests she wanted to sound reasonable. "I'm working out transportation for the wedding weekend. Your father and I can take Caleb with us Friday afternoon if that helps." I blinked. "Take Caleb where?" "To the hotel. For the rehearsal dinner and everything." I waited. "And Regina?" There was a pause just long enough for my stomach to drop. "Well," Mom said, "that's actually what I wanted to discuss." No, it wasn't. It was what she wanted to announce gently enough that I would feel rude for objecting. "What about Regina?" I asked. "Sweetheart, we all just think this might be kinder." "Kinder to who?" Mom sighed, already tired of me. "Don't start that. You know weddings are overwhelming. The music, the people, the schedule. Marissa has been very concerned about Regina getting overstimulated." "Has Marissa talked to Regina about that?" "No, because we didn't want to upset her." "Mom, did Marissa invite Regina?" Another pause. "Joyce," she said softly, "this is an adult formal event. Caleb is 11. Caleb knows how to behave in a formal setting." It was quiet in the supply closet except for the hum of the mini fridge where we kept whitening trays. I stared at a shelf of paper cups and felt something old and tired inside me stand up. "Regina has been practicing for 6 weeks, I said. "I know, and it's precious, but that doesn't mean it's wise. We're trying to keep the day peaceful. No surprises. No difficult moments." "Difficult for Regina?" "For everyone," she said, and there it was. I got off the phone without yelling. That was important to me later. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I said I needed to speak with Marissa, and Mom told me not to turn this into something ugly. The ugly thing had already happened. I was just finally looking at it. That night, after the kids went to bed, I called Marissa. She answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, is this about Mom? Because she said you sounded intense. Did you invite Regina to your wedding?" Marissa exhaled. "Joyce, that's not an answer. I didn't send her a separate invitation because she's 9. You invited Caleb through Mom. Because Caleb is in a different situation." "What situation is that?" "He's just easier in groups." I sat at the edge of my bed and pressed my thumb into my palm. "Say what you mean." "I am saying what I mean," Marissa snapped, then softened her voice like she had caught herself looking too honest. "I just need the day to be smooth. You know how Regina can get when things change. What if she has a meltdown during the ceremony? What if she says something inappropriate to Evan's parents? What if people stare?" "Then people stare," I said. "She's a child. I deserved one day that wasn't complicated." That sentence sat between us. I thought about all the years I had heard some version of that. Marissa deserved a calm birthday, so I should ignore her tantrum. Marissa deserved a good graduation party, so I should not mention she had stolen money from Mom's purse. Marissa deserved a beautiful engagement dinner, so I should pretend she hadn't introduced Caleb as Joyce's normal one, after 2 glasses of wine. "You don't want a smooth day," I said. "You want my daughter invisible. That is not fair." "No. What's not fair is inviting my son and excluding my daughter because she might make your pictures less perfect. Don't make this about disability." "It is about disability. It's about my wedding." "Exactly," I said. "That's the problem." She started crying then, but I had heard Marissa cry enough to know the difference between pain and strategy. "You always make me feel like a bad person," she said. "No, Marissa. I think sometimes I just stop helping you pretend you're not doing bad things." She hung up. I sat there for a long time with my phone in my lap. I wanted to call Mom back and argue. I wanted to write a message so sharp it would cut through every polite lie they had wrapped around my daughter. But Caleb's door creaked open before I moved. He stood in the hallway in his pajama pants, his hair sticking up on one side. "I heard some," he said. "How much?" "Enough." I sighed. "I'm sorry. Is Regina not invited?" I couldn't lie to him. "No." His face changed in a way I hated. Not surprise. Confirmation. If Regina's not invited, I'm not going, he said. Caleb, you don't have to decide right now. I did decide. The next morning, Regina came into the kitchen wearing the blue dress over her leggings because she wanted to test if the seams bothered her while she ate cereal. Caleb went very still when he saw her. Regina noticed. She always noticed more than people thought. Is the wedding changed? She asked. I put down the coffee mug. Come sit with me. She sat. Caleb stood behind the chair, one hand on the back like he was guarding it. I told her as gently and plainly as I could. Aunt Marissa had decided the wedding might not be a good place for her. I told her I disagreed. I told her Caleb and I were not going without her. Regina looked at the table. It's okay, she said quickly. Too quickly. I can watch a movie. That broke me more than a meltdown ever could have. A meltdown would have meant she trusted the room enough to show pain. This was worse. This was a little girl folding herself small because some part of her had already learned that rejection was easier for adults when she helped carry it. Caleb's jaw tightened. That's not protecting her, he said. That's hiding her. Regina touched the edge of one of her index cards. I practiced the greeting cards. I know, baby, I said. I was trying to be easy. I had to close my eyes for a second. When I opened them, I knew what I was going to do. I sent one message in the family WhatsApp chat. The group was called Family First, which had always been ironic but never more than that morning. I wrote, since Regina is not invited to Marissa's wedding, Caleb and I will not be attending either. Please do not arrange transportation for Caleb. We hope the day goes smoothly. Mom replied within 2 minutes. Joyce, don't punish your sister. I wrote back, I'm protecting my child. Dad jumped in. This is not the hill to die on. Caleb, who had apparently been added to the chat years ago and never used it, typed from his phone. It is for me. I heard his message send from the living room and almost cried. Marissa didn't respond until later that night. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I stared at the message while Regina slept under her weighted blanket and Caleb watched TV with the volume low. I typed, you don't get to exclude my daughter and borrow my son for pictures. Then I muted the chat. The wedding weekend came anyway because other people's big days do not stop just because they have hurt you. On Friday night, Regina wore her blue dress at home for 20 minutes. She put on her cardigan and her headphones, stood in front of the hallway mirror and said, thank you. I like your dress. 3 times in different tones. Then she took the dress off, folded it carefully, and put on pajamas with clouds on them. We ordered pizza. Caleb picked mushrooms off Regina's slices because she liked the flavor but not the texture. I let them eat in the living room, which I usually didn't do. We watched a movie Regina had seen enough times to know every line. At one point she asked, do you think Aunt Marissa noticed I wasn't there? I had no idea how to answer without lying or hurting her. I think people notice what they choose to notice, I said. She considered that. That is not a yes. No, I said. It isn't. The next day, photos started showing up online. Marissa in white lace. Evan smiling beside her. Mom in a silver dress with one hand on Marissa's shoulder. Dad shaking Graham's hand in one picture, looking like he had just won something. There were welcome bags with monograms, matching bridesmaid robes, a cocktail hour with tiny crab cakes, and a seating chart written on a mirror. There was one photo that made me stop scrolling. It was a family picture. Mom, Dad, Marissa, Evan, and a space where my children and I should have been. The caption said, perfect day surrounded by the people who matter most. I turned off my phone. For about 2 weeks I thought silence might be enough. I thought maybe we could all sit in the discomfort without me doing anything else. I was not trying to ruin Marissa's marriage. I was not trying to embarrass my parents. I just wanted distance. But my family has never been able to leave a quiet boundary alone. They need the person with the boundary to be the villain, because otherwise they might have to look at the reason for it. The first message came from a cousin. Hey, I don't want to get involved, but your mom said you skipped the wedding because you were upset Marissa was getting attention. That doesn't sound like you. Are you okay? I stared at it for a while. Then another cousin texted. Your mom said Regina wasn't comfortable going anyway. Why is everyone fighting? That was the first time I realized they weren't just excluding my daughter. They were rewriting her. I called my cousin and asked what she had heard. She hesitated, embarrassed, then told me that Mom had said Regina didn't do well with events and didn't want to attend, and that I had become emotional because Marissa's wedding brought up old jealousy issues. Old jealousy issues. I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because the alternative was throwing my phone. After that, I started taking screenshots. Not to post online. Not to blast anyone. I just knew my family. They survived by making truth sound unstable. I needed proof, even if only for myself. I went back through the messages Mom and Marissa had sent before I muted the chat. Mom had written, "We need everything polished this weekend." Marissa had written, "I can't risk unpredictable moments with Evan's parents watching." Dad had written, "We had important people there. Personal feelings should not interfere with business." There it was, in their own words. Easter was the breaking point. Mom sent a message in Family First with a photo of pastel napkins and a centerpiece full of fake tulips. "Easter lunch at our house at 1. Everyone come hungry. Time to move forward as a family." I did not respond for 2 hours. Then I wrote, "The kids and I won't be attending." Mom replied, "Family doesn't skip Easter because of a wedding misunderstanding." I wrote, "It wasn't a misunderstanding." Marissa came in fast. "Are you seriously still punishing everyone?" Dad wrote, "Enough. This has gone too far." Something in me went very calm. I wrote, "We did not attend the wedding because Regina was deliberately excluded for being autistic, and because you were afraid she would embarrass you in front of Evan's family." Mom wrote, "Do not put that in writing." So I put more in writing. I sent the screenshots, the polished message, the unpredictable moments message, Dad's important people message. Then I wrote, "I'm not ruining your story. I'm just not editing it anymore." For a full minute, no one answered. Then Marissa wrote, "Delete that." I replied, "No." Mom called me immediately. I let it ring. Dad called. I let it ring. Marissa sent 6 messages, each angrier than the last. "You're twisting this. You know that's not what I meant. You always have to make yourself the victim. You are trying to destroy my marriage." I did not answer. That night Evan called. I almost didn't pick up. I didn't want to fight with a man who had been in the family for 5 minutes and probably believed whatever Marissa had told him. But something about the timing made me answer. "Joyce," he said. His voice was low. "It's Evan." "I know. I'm sorry to call late. I just need to ask you something directly." "Okay." Was Regina actually not invited? I closed my eyes. "Correct." Silence. "Marissa told me she didn't want to come," he said. "Regina practiced for 6 weeks." He breathed out slowly. "She told me you stayed home because you were upset about family attention. Like it was some older sister thing." "I'm sure she did." "I'm not calling to accuse you," he said quickly. "I'm just trying to understand. I'm not trying to ruin anything, Evan. I didn't contact your family. I didn't post online. I stayed home with my kids. But I'm done lying for them." "She really wanted to come?" "Yes." "And Caleb refused because Regina couldn't go?" "Yes." He was quiet again. When he spoke, his voice sounded different. "I need to talk to Marissa." "I think you do." After that, my mother shifted tactics. For 3 days she sent nothing. Then she showed up at my house with a bakery box, as if pastries had ever fixed a family that used children as props. I did not let her in. I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. She looked offended. "Really, Joyce? What do you need?" Her mouth tightened. "We need to clear up misunderstandings with Evan's parents." "There are no misunderstandings." "Don't be dramatic. Graham has become concerned about the business agreement because of all this family tension. Your father has spent months preparing. He hired temporary warehouse help. He ordered inventory. We cannot have this nonsense interfere. This nonsense is my daughter." "That is not what I meant." "It keeps being what you mean." Mom held out the bakery box like evidence of good intentions. "We're having dinner Saturday. Evan and his parents will be there. Marissa will be there. Your father, and I think it would be best if you came with the children so everyone can see we're a loving family." I looked at her. "Bring Regina," she added. We need them to see everything is fine. Regina is not a prop. Oh, for heaven's sake. Don't be dramatic. I almost said no right then. I wanted to. My whole body wanted to close the door and never open it to her again. Then Evan called me later that evening. I know this is a lot to ask, he said. But would you consider coming? My parents want to hear things in the same room. I don't want anyone twisting it again. Does Regina have to be there? No, he said immediately. Not if that hurts her. That answer mattered. I asked Regina what she wanted without telling her what I wanted first. She lined up her weather magnets on the fridge while she thought. Will Aunt Marissa be there? Yes. Will Grandma tell me indoor voice? Probably. Will there be rolls? I don't know. Can I bring my cards? Yes. Then I want to go, she said. Because I want to know what happens when people tell the truth. Caleb muttered from the table. Usually they get mad. Regina nodded. I know. I want to see if they do the expected thing. Saturday evening, we drove to my parents' house. I had updated the kids' school pickup list that afternoon, removing my parents as emergency contacts. I hadn't told anyone yet. I just did it. Some boundaries are not announcements. They are locks quietly turned. Mom's house looked like it had been staged for a magazine spread titled, Warm Family Values. New cream table linens. New throw pillows. Catered appetizers on white platters. A framed wedding photo on the entry table, angled so everyone had to see it. In the photo, Marissa and Evan stood under flowers, smiling like no one had been erased to make the day look clean. Regina wore a soft green cardigan, leggings under a dress, and her headphones around her neck. Her index cards were clipped together with a small silver ring. Caleb stayed close to her, not hovering exactly but near enough. Mom opened the door with a bright smile. There they are, she said too loudly. My beautiful grandbabies. Caleb did not smile. Regina said, Hello, Grandma. Your earrings are symmetrical. Mom blinked. Thank you, sweetheart. Remember indoor voice tonight. We have important guests. Regina looked around. This is indoors, so yes. I bit the inside of my cheek. Graham and his wife Lena were already in the living room. Graham was tall, silver-haired, and dressed plainly in a navy button-down. He did not have the loud presence my father tried to have around business people. He was quiet, but the room seemed to organize itself around his silence. Lena sat beside him, hands folded, watching everything. She had kind eyes but not soft ones. There was a difference. Evan stood near the fireplace looking tired. Marissa stood beside him in a cream sweater dress, twisting her wedding ring. When Regina walked in, Graham looked at her index cards, then at her headphones, then at her face. He didn't stare. He just noticed. Hello, he said. Regina looked at her greeting card, then back at him. Hello. I am Regina. I like weather radar and bread rolls. It is nice to meet you. Graham's mouth moved like he was holding back a smile. It is nice to meet you too. I also like bread rolls. Regina nodded once, satisfied. That is common at dinners. Mom clapped her hands softly. Well, isn't that sweet? Let's all sit. She had arranged the seating carefully. Graham at one end, Dad near him, Mom across from Lena, Marissa beside Evan, and me with my kids halfway down the table, close enough to display but not close enough to control the conversation. At first, dinner was all performance. Mom praised the caterer. Dad talked about supply chains. Marissa laughed too brightly at everything Lena said. Evan barely touched his food. Regina ate 2 rolls and lined the crumbs on her plate from smallest to largest. Mom noticed and leaned over. Sweetheart, let's not play with food tonight. Regina looked at the crumbs. I'm organizing it. Still. Regina put her hands in her lap. I said, she's fine. Mom's smile sharpened. Of course. We just want a peaceful evening. In my family, peaceful usually meant nobody was allowed to tell the truth. After the main course, Dad cleared his throat. I think we all know there has been some confusion, he said. Family emotions ran high around the wedding, and some things were misunderstood. I leaned back. I had decided before arriving that I would not rescue them from their own words. I would ask questions if needed. Mostly I would let them talk. Graham looked at Dad. What was misunderstood? Dad shifted. Well, decisions were made to prevent an uncomfortable situation. For Regina? I asked. Dad glanced at me irritated. For the event. Graham's eyes moved to Regina, then back to Dad. Mom jumped in. Regina is a wonderful child. We adore her. But formal settings can be difficult, and Marissa was under tremendous pressure. A wedding has a tone, a flow. You don't get that day back. Marissa's eyes filled with tears. I was trying to protect everyone. I didn't exclude her. I made a hard decision. Caleb spoke before I could. You invited me. The table went quiet. Marissa looked at him like she had forgotten children could talk back. Caleb, honey, that was different. How? Because you're older. I'm 2 years older. Mom said. This is adult conversation. Caleb looked at her. Then why did you use me for kid pictures? I put a hand lightly on his arm, not to stop him, just to steady him. Frank's face darkened. That's enough, Graham said. No, I'd like to hear the answer. Dad's expression changed immediately. Softer. Businesslike. Children can misunderstand these things. The point is, we were trying to avoid an incident. Regina looked up. What incident? No one answered. She looked at me. Was I the incident? No, I said. Mom reached for her water glass. Regina, sweetheart, nobody means it that way. Regina looked at her cards, then said, people say that after they mean it that way. Lena's face went still. Marissa whispered, this is exactly what I was afraid of. Evan turned his head slowly toward her. What? Marissa flushed. I mean the stress. The tension. This is why I thought the wedding would be too much. For Regina? Evan asked. Marissa didn't answer. For you, he said. Regina had started rubbing the corner of one index card with her thumb. Graham noticed. What are those cards for? He asked gently. Regina looked at me. I nodded. They help me not make people mad by accident, she said. The room went so quiet that I heard the air conditioner click on. Graham's expression changed, but not dramatically. His face simply settled, like a door closing somewhere deep inside him. May I see them? He asked. Regina held them tighter. Do you want the short explanation or the long explanation? The long one, Graham said. That seemed to please her. She unclipped the ring and handed him the cards one by one. This one is for greetings. This one is for small talk. This one is if music is too loud. Because I can go to the restroom or outside, but I should tell Mom first. This one is for when Aunt Marissa says I look pretty. This one is for if someone asks about my headphones. Caleb helped with that one because my first answer was too long. Caleb said quietly, it was 9 minutes. It had important details, Regina said. Graham looked through the cards. He stopped on one I hadn't seen before. What does this one say? He asked. Regina looked down. It says, if I am too much, ask Mom for help and do not cry until the car. I felt the words like a physical blow. Mom made a small sound. Oh, Regina, nobody said you were too much. Regina blinked. Not with those words. Graham placed the cards carefully on the table. I'm autistic, Diane, he said. Mom froze. Dad looked confused for half a second, then alarmed. Marissa's mouth parted. Graham continued, calm and precise. I have been in rooms like this my entire life. Mom recovered enough to say, Graham, that is not what we meant. It is exactly what you meant, he said. You just expected me not to recognize it. Nobody moved. He looked at Regina. You made a plan so you could attend an event that mattered to you. That took effort. More effort than most adults at this table made to include you. Regina stared at him. Then he looked at my parents. I know what exclusion sounds like when people dress it up. Practical. Appropriate. Smooth. No surprises. For everyone's comfort. I have heard those words in schools, boardrooms, conferences, family gatherings, and job interviews. They always mean the same thing. Someone has decided that another person's presence is a problem to manage. Mom's face had gone pale under her makeup. We love Regina. Graham nodded once. You may love the idea of being seen as loving grandparents. That is not the same thing. Dad leaned forward. Graham, with respect, this is a personal misunderstanding. I don't think it should interfere with business. Graham turned to him. How people treat a child when there is money on the table tells me everything I need to know. Dad swallowed. We've already taken steps based on our discussions. I know, Graham said. You told me. Dad's voice tightened. We hired additional warehouse staff. We ordered inventory. We prepared for your distribution needs. The agreement was not signed. We had a verbal understanding. No, Graham said. We had a possibility. This dinner has clarified that possibility. Mom put a hand on Dad's arm. Surely we can separate family matters from business. Graham's eyes were cold now. Not cruel. Clear. This is not a misunderstanding, he said. This is a character reference. Marissa started crying. Real crying this time, I think, because no one was moving to comfort her fast enough. Evan stood up. Did you lie to me? He asked her. Marissa looked up. Evan, please. Did you tell me Regina didn't want to come? I was trying to protect the wedding. You let me stand at the altar with you while you were lying about a child. It was one day, she said. Evan stared at her like he had never seen her before. That is the problem, he said. You thought one day mattered more than who you are. He turned to me. I'm sorry. I nodded because I didn't trust my voice. Then he left with his parents. The door closed quietly behind them. Not slammed. Somehow that made it worse. For about 10 seconds no one spoke. Then my mother turned on me. Are you happy now? Regina flinched. That was the last thing my mother said in front of my children. I stood up. Get your things. Caleb was already moving. Regina gathered her cards with shaking hands. Dad followed me to the entryway. You destroyed this family. I turned around. No, I said. I stopped editing the story. Mom's voice cracked behind him. After everything we've done for you? I almost laughed. Not because nothing had been done for me. They had done plenty. They had also sent a clear message my whole life. Love was available when I was useful, quiet, and willing to absorb impact. I opened the door. No. I'm done translating cruelty into concern. We left. In the car, nobody spoke for several minutes. Regina held her cards in both hands. Caleb stared out the window. Finally, Regina said, Mr. Graham understood the cards. Yes, I said. Because he is autistic. Yes. Do I have to practice being normal? The road blurred for a second. No, baby, I said. You can practice being comfortable. She nodded and looked down at her cards. That seems harder. I know. The collapse was not instant. Real consequences usually arrive in envelopes, invoices, and quiet phone calls. First, Evan moved out of the house he had just moved into with Marissa. Then I heard through a cousin that he had filed for separation. There was no dramatic public announcement, no screaming scene, no viral post. Just lawyers, divided accounts, canceled plans, and Marissa changing her profile picture from a wedding photo to a picture of herself on a beach looking wounded. She texted me once. I hope you're proud of what you did. I did not answer. Then Dad's business started to strain. Graham formally withdrew from the unsigned distribution agreement. Dad tried to save face by saying he had chosen to pursue other opportunities, but people in his circle knew he had already expanded too early. He had hired temporary warehouse help, ordered inventory on credit, and bragged about the upcoming partnership at 2 networking breakfasts before anything was final. Without the contract, those choices became bills. Mom called from different numbers after I blocked hers. I blocked those 2. Dad emailed me once with the subject line, Family Responsibility. I deleted it unread. Marissa sent long messages that started with anger and slowly shifted into self-pity, then silence. A few months later, my cousin told me Mom and Dad were putting their house on the market. The same house with the staged entry table, the new linens, the perfect family photos arranged like evidence. I did not celebrate. I didn't feel victorious. I felt sad in a distant, tired way. Like watching a building collapse after years of ignoring cracks everyone pretended not to see. I went no contact with my parents in the practical way people don't always talk about. Blocked numbers. Updated school forms. New emergency contacts. Holidays at home. No more forced Sunday lunches where my children had to be corrected into acceptability. No more family group chat buzzing at night with demands disguised as love. Caleb changed first. He stopped checking my face every time my phone rang. He stopped asking, "Are we going to Grandma's?" in that careful tone. He laughed louder. He argued with me about homework like a normal kid instead of acting like the smallest disagreement might break the house. Regina changed more slowly. For a while, she still asked permission for things she didn't need permission for. Am I allowed to talk about clouds at dinner? Yes. Am I allowed to wear headphones in the grocery store? Yes. Am I allowed to not hug people? Always. One afternoon, she came home from school with a flyer for a small theater tech club. Not acting. Props, lights, checklists, backstage organization. She handed it to me like it might burn her. They need someone who likes rules, she said. That sounds like you. What if I am too much? Then they are not your people. She thought about that for a long time. What if I am enough but loud? Then you're enough and loud. She joined. She organized props for a spring performance and came home furious because someone put a plastic apple in the wrong basket after she had labeled it. She also came home happy. The two things existed together. That was new for us. Marissa eventually stopped reaching out. I heard her divorce became final quietly. Mom tried once to send birthday cards to the kids through my cousin, but I returned them unopened. Some people think that sounds harsh. Those people usually have not watched a child learn to apologize for existing. I used to think my job was to keep the family together. I organized dinners, softened words, explained away cruelty, and called it peace because that was easier than admitting peace had never included me. What I was really doing was holding up a painted backdrop so nobody had to see the rot behind it. When I stepped away, the backdrop fell. I did not destroy my sister's marriage. She lied to her husband about a child because she cared more about the tone of her wedding than the truth of her character. I did not destroy my father's business deal. He gambled money he didn't have on a relationship he thought he could secure by hiding anything inconvenient. I did not destroy my mother's family image. I only stopped cropping the picture. Now our home is smaller, quieter, and easier to breathe in. There are index cards on the fridge. Caleb's sneakers are always in the wrong place. Regina's headphones hang by the door. Some nights we eat grilled cheese for dinner because I am tired from work and nobody has to pretend that tired mothers are failing. Regina still keeps the wedding cards in a box under her bed. Not because she wants to go back. Because, as she told me once, they are proof that I tried. I told her, they are also proof that trying was never the problem. She nodded and added a new card to the stack. It said, "People who love me do not need me to disappear." I keep that one on the fridge now. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.